Yeah, how many people are starting to discover that there's an operating system that's been operating in their mind that you probably weren't even consciously aware of, that's responsible for most of the conflict, most of the values, most of the indecision, most of the patterns that people run that aren't essentially serving them. And when it comes to Paul, it's a common pattern, the fact that if you are heart-centered, and Paul, I know your primary archetype is lover. You know, you're somebody who cares a lot about a lot of people. So it's like, well, okay, I need to make a decision here, but if that decision impacts other people that I care about in a way that may not serve them according to my values, I suddenly get resistance that comes up, right? So therefore, we start asking the question, which is most authentic? Is it authentic to care, or is it authentic to do something that may be perceived as not caring? Well, the qualifying question there, and by the way, all of the lovers go through this on a daily basis. Yeah, warriors have no issue with answering that question, right? But the lovers tend to struggle. And the reason the lovers tend to struggle is because they're centric towards wanting everybody to get along. Because in the ideal lover world, there's no conflict. In the ideal lover world, it's, yeah, when we connect and we're happy, yeah, we connect first, then we can deal with the issue. See, on the warriors, as I said before, you know, it's like, I want to be able to solve the issue because there's an issue, and that's my primary focus. Once the issue is solved, I can relax, my cortisol drops, and therefore we can address, yeah, the level of connection. Whereas lovers, it's a case of, oh, well, if my cortisol is high because I'm not connected, I can't even focus on an issue. And now we see the conflict. So how do you resolve that in the context of what Paul was saying in terms of decisions? Well, the first question we should ask ourselves is, whose movie are we starring in? Whose movie? Because if we have somebody that we care about and we make a decision that we perceive, our perception is not impacting them at their highest level of connection, what does that actually mean? It means that, oh, I may want to sacrifice my level of authentic decision to help somebody else feel more connected. In other words, I want to muscle into somebody else's non-lover movie and make it more of a lover movie. Sometimes we have to understand that we have absolutely no right to impose ourselves into anybody else's movie other than the best version of ourselves. And the best version of ourselves starts with being what's true to us. Now, this is hard for lovers, and it's hard for all of us when we feel it's going to impact somebody else. Anyone here got a family member that has no understanding or association to things that are going on in EMF? They just don't get it. It's that personal development stuff. And you spent how much and you're doing where? You get the idea, all right? And with what you're learning over the last several months, you can probably see some of the patterns that they're running and may have strong insight into be able to how to help them. Am I right? How many of you have made the mistake of trying to do that? All right? How's it working for you? You see, one thing to understand, we not only have no right to impose our model of the world onto somebody else, but more importantly, we've got no right to be able to take away their lessons. Think of some of the most powerful lessons that you've had were linked to the amount of pain that you endured, correct? It's called life getting your attention. And if somebody had have come along just at the point before we said we'd had enough, or before we'd hit our hard enough on the sidewalk, and said, let me tie those shoelaces for you, we wouldn't be the person we are today. We wouldn't have the depth of experience. See, what you're learning is not really how to avoid negative scenarios. You're learning how to transcend them. You're learning how to use what we'd call emotional alchemy, where you can turn sadness into joy, or you can turn frustration into breakthrough. But to want that for somebody else without them having to lift the weights in the gym themselves is compromising not only your sense of truth, but their opportunity to grow. How many people get what I'm saying here? Now, it can be tough. I want everybody else around me to be happy. You've got absolutely no right to impose that, Paul. Sorry. You can want it for them. But if you want it for them more than they want it for themselves, you're wasting your time. Rule number one in coaching. We get to be the example of what it's like to be somebody who can be happy even in the face of things not going our way. Therefore, we can be the invitation to other people to walk that path. And it's hard because we see somebody we care about who's struggling. And we see how easy it is. It's like the fly banging its head against the window. Why does the fly bang its head against the window? Because it can see where it wants to go. And it makes absolutely perfect sense that it should try to keep flying in the direction of where it thinks it should go. There's a lot of people out there that are living their life by what we call path of shortest distance. That's the buy me mantra. I can see my goal, it's over there, and I'm going to keep banging my head against this invisible obstacle that keeps throwing itself up. See, the path of through me doesn't work that way. The path of through me lends itself to a different modus operandi of life. We should know by now, module 8. See, through me works off path of least resistance. The fly has an open window 6 inches away. But that goes against looking at my goal in a straight line. So I'm destined to, lie at the bottom of the windowsill with my legs in the air, never actually having get my goal. Right? So some people are flies in this lifetime. Some people have to hit their head harder on the window before they start to realize there's an open one close by. We don't want the people we care about to keep banging their head against the window. But for some people, it's required. What's our job? Our job is to not bang our head against the window so they can see that there's a different path. I want everybody else to be happy. Of course you do. Why? Because you wouldn't want everyone else to be unhappy. That just goes against the nature of the level of consciousness we're aiming for. But what we don't get to do is impose that on everybody else or go take away their lessons. Because if somebody did that to us, we'd probably still be banging our head against the window. That makes sense.